I do a lot of these talks to college kids kind of for CME, and I've yet to find one. I'm gonna give a prize if I ever do. So University of Kentucky really does not have a big presence, or didn't a long time ago when I was in college, in the financial markets. And so when I started my career in financial markets, it was not because I knew anyone or had a lot of deep contacts with it. It was because I just genuinely got really interested in it and pursued it. But how did I get there? So very, very long story short, I have a degree in international economics and foreign languages and a minor in business. And it's kind of a mouthful, but it was a really fun degree to get. I got very interested in economics because I wanted to understand how kind of the world worked and finance worked and supply and demand and what other countries' interrelations meant to each other and how that affected prices and things like that. And it was really interesting to me, hence data kind of down the road. So I did study abroad. I lived in France, I lived in Italy, I've lived in Hong Kong, and I did those things because I love to travel and I love other people. And I really like collaborating and understanding differences of ideas and opinions, and really stark differences in ideas and opinions. I actually really thrive on that, and if you work with me, you would know that. So I went to University of Kentucky, studied abroad, and then I got my first job at I actually interned at an oil company called Valvoline. And that was a really cool experience. So all of you that are interning, take every note you can with the people that you work with and ask a lot of questions and understand the difference of roles in the company, right? Because that was something I didn't do a good job at. But you really need to kind of pursue, well, what do you do and what is that about and how do I get from here to here, right? And make sure you're taking advantage of those things. But one of the things that I learned in my internship that always stuck with me, I worked for this really hard woman. She was very, very hard on me. And I didn't understand it until I got older and into my career why she was like that. But she sat me down one day and she said to me, Julie, you need to remember one thing. In this entire path that you're going to be on, remember one thing. And I said, okay. And she's like, no, make that two. I said, okay. And I took her, she was very stern and very scary and very big presence about her. And she said, your reputation is your very best friend. And what she meant by that, and as she proceeded to go into it, she said, be kind and be yourself with everyone that you work with, no matter what their level or their title is. They should be, if they work as an analyst, or they're your peer, or they're senior to you. Obviously, senior has a little bit more implication, right? You want to perform for them and produce. But she meant be yourself and treat others the way you would want to be treated. And I've really, really lived by that, or at least I've tried, and I'll ask my colleagues in the audience to keep me honest about that. But that really meant a lot to me, and that stuck with me. And I absolutely advise you to take that on, because you're going to work with a lot of people. And to John's point in his earlier intro, he met a guy that went from here to all the way up there. And it's not just to get ahead. I don't just so you meet the CEO of a big company one day and you're his best friend. But I mean that because you just never know who you're going to meet and how they can add and enrich advice that you're getting, or how you can interoperate in other businesses. And you have friends leave companies and go to other companies. I see one of them in the audience today, and it just follows you. And it's just really, really important. And the other piece of advice that I'll give you, and then I'll go into my data presentation, is reach. And what do I mean by that? Two things. Always dress for the position you want, not the one you've got. Okay, especially kind of when you're starting out. And I say that to interns because we have a lot in our office, and everyone's kind of got variations, right, of style. But if you dress like you're in corporate America, but you want to dress for the role you want, not the one you've got. Okay, but what I really mean by that is when you reach for the next position, reach for it even if you're not fully qualified for it. And that is kind of the story that I've had career and for about 15 years in finance. You don't have to be fully every credential met and be an A on all of it to get to that next role. You just have to believe you can do it, and you need to make others believe that you can do it, and you need to be willing and ready to work really, really hard to make sure that you do it if you get it. So those are the two things I would say from a career advice perspective. And so I went journey, and I worked in an oil company. I worked for the largest airplane manufacturer in the world, doing like banking and analytics, bored out of my mind. Doing that. I've done customer service, I've done account management, I moved into sales for software, and about 6 years ago I left that and I started working at CME. And I'm going to skip this slide and I'm going to go to this. So what do I do at CME today? What is an economics background in oil companies and a cash management position at an airplane company, airplane manufacturing company, and software sales, account management. How does that career build? Well, it gave me a platform to really, really care about customer service, client interaction, a real zeal for different of technologies and how to, get my job done, and really what else was going on in the world, and how I could help any company I was at advance. And so the job at CME Group that I first took, I ran sales for our colocation and data center business. I'm not going to go into too much of the weeds of what that is, but it's basically people that want to put their infrastructure in a data center and then trade on CME Group markets. And so I started off there, and I'll give you a hint back to my earlier advice. I didn't know anything about the data center business when they hired me. The head of the data center business, who's the managing director there, he hired me, and I had a lot of experience. I had 9 or 10 years of experience selling to CTOs and COOs, hedge funds, banks, folks like that in the industry, but I had never sold, and I had sold software, and I'd talked to equities and equity options. I had never talked data centers, I'd never talked data, and I'd never talked futures. So how did I get the job? Well, I took my skill set and I said, well, I may not have sold that, but I can sell anything. I can be taught, what the components of the data center business are and who are their clients, and I certainly understand how technologists think, and I understand customer care and how to drive revenue. And really that was enough. He said, well, we'll teach you colo, because no one knows CME colo except for us, because we're building it. We're able to teach you data center, we can teach you market data and how those components fit together, but I need the aptitude that you have with customers, because we are kind of lacking right now in understanding, like, what do they need and what are their pain points and how do we engage them best and how do we interoperate internally with other customer-facing people. And so that's how I got the job, and again, it's about the reach. So I didn't have the perfect credentials, but it really interested me. I really wanted to work at CME Group. There wasn't a lot of jobs for someone like me open at the time that I went for it, but I found the one where I had at least enough qualifications to get through the door, and it ended up working out. I'm not saying that you'll always have a perfect paradigm there and it'll always work out, but you try and try, but you can relate your skills almost in any way. So the colocation business is a part of my role. I evolved from running sales of that to actually running the business line. So I started running something called market technology sales, where I was selling colo, our application services, all of our software suite of businesses, and all of CME's market data. So I was focusing really on the sales side for about 3.5, 4 years. And then about 2 years ago, my boss started giving me opportunities to start looking at and running components of the business, because he was inundated, taking on more and more things, and so he asked me to step in. And about 4 months ago, he made it official, and I took over the colo business and also our application service business. A better way to put it would be our software business. So how do we distribute access to CME Group markets? So it's called CME Direct, is one of the software applications, and people do execution management. So they put out orders out in the marketplace. CME Direct is very specific to CME Group markets, but there's tons of other ISVs, others are represented here today, of how to also engage us. So and the reason I really transitioned, I had done account management and sales for a number of years, but I really wanted to get my teeth more into the business and the strategy and make more business decisions. And what better way to do that, to transition from a sales perspective, where I understood revenue and drive and clients and account management and all the products that were important to folks, and where we wanted to go and create those products. So that's a little bit about my world up there, and we don't have enough time. Normally this full deck would take about an hour to get through, so we're gonna breeze through some of the cooler parts. So I'm gonna skip that part. We do have some really cool fintech partnerships at CME Group. I encourage you to kind of check out some of these. Fintech Sandbox, Innovate Finance. They're folks that really engage in kind of small companies and help them get into the financial market framework. So if you wanted to enter the financial markets in a different way than just a CME core type company, that's another angle to get in. I'm not going to explain to you all about our historical data offering, but as I've mentioned, so the business lines with application and data services within the components of software and the colo and then the full suite of kind of selling our data services, CME Group has a $400 million data business. It is 12% of our annual revenue of the company, and my boss ultimately runs that. And then the complementary services with application and the colo, are facilitators of pumping that data out to customers. There's many other ways that we do it, but those are two. And so one of them is historical data. We store that historical data into the cloud, and we sell it. And what has allowed us, based on that cloud interaction, is we started working with different alternative data providers, such as companies that use satellite imagery to do predictive analytics in corn crops or predictive analytics in above ground oil tanker storage. And so that you can kind of take that data and map it to historical prices in energy or historical prices in agriculture, and then you can run strategies and then do predictions of how your model would work in the future for trading. And so this is something that we're really, is kind of groundbreaking for us, and we're starting to foray into becoming a reseller of some of this data and engaging some of these data providers and helping them map the opportunities in data with the CME Group markets specifically, because that's what we care about the most. But there's a really a number of cool companies out there. And what I wanted to bring home with you guys as a group of students and trying to figure out your path. When I first started college, I had no idea what I wanted to do. This gentleman said he came out of journalism. That was my first major. It went to accounting and then to the economics. But I will tell you that data is imploding as a job in this industry. So people want data scientists. They want they want people that analyze data. There's folks that go out and procure hundreds of millions of dollars a year in data across more exchanges than just CME. So it is really blowing up. I absolutely ask you to explore. The clock kind of stopped, so I'm thinking I'm out of time, but okay. And so I would actually engage you to take a look at the technologies that surround and envelop the alternative data sources out there, exchange data, because there's such a wild world that you can explore, and I don't even have enough time to really dig in like I'd like. But it was very fun being in front of you guys. I hope some of the advice helps, and good luck with your journeys.